was this year the most exciting year as a journalist to cover the 49ers? Where would it rank in your best years as a journalist? Yeah.
Number one, no question, the most exciting season I ever covered. I mean, it had everything. Let's just go through it. It started off with a quarterback controversy. They traded up to number 3, and they didn't know who they were going to take, right? They trade up to number 3, and you're like, are you freaking kidding me? Why? Not the number 1 pick, not the number 2 pick. So that was the whole mystery. Like, which quarterback are they going to take? Is it Justin Fields or Mac Jones? They take Trey Lance. They keep Jimmy Garoppolo. There's that whole quarterback controversy and non-competition. That was just drama, straight up. And then they start off the season 2-0. Everyone's like, oh, they're going to be great. Then they go on a 4-game losing streak. Everyone's like, this team is freaking terrible. And they're eventually 3-5 and like doing weird things, not playing Ayuk, playing guys like Trent Sherfield, Mohamed Sanu, injured Javon Kinlaw, injured D Ford. And then like halfway, they're on the brink of collapse. And all of a sudden they have this collective epiphany of like who needs to play, who's dead weight. And then they just go on this crazy run. That's really improbable. Deebo Samuel becomes a running back. Eric Armstead becomes a defense. Ambry Thomas is good all of a sudden. They go to the playoffs. They win a game because of special teams. And then they lose to the one team they own. And they collapse in the fourth quarter the same way they collapsed in the Super Bowl. It was definitely the most interesting, dramatic, exciting season I've ever covered by far.
Yeah, and I mean, you had caution and like talks of him being fired all year. There was just a lot of storylines. Like 2019, we came out of nowhere. We are blowing everyone out, but there wasn't, you had a quarterback. There wasn't as many things to talk about because it was like, oh, we won again this week.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, they're 8-0.
Yeah, like we expected to blow out every team, but it was like every game was a collective. We were really scared almost, but it was a good, like it brought a lot of content and it brought a lot of joy when you won. I feel like this was a more like stress season, but it was more of a funner season to cover because it just brought a lot more excitement to the season, especially the way it ended and the way it went and the whole thing like that. Beating the Packers in Lambeau, like 2019, you wouldn't have gotten that. It was all at home. So the accolades that the hurdles that the 49ers had to jump over were a lot bigger, which made the victory more sweet, which ended in the NFC Championship game, but it was still sweet.
Also, I feel like the end of the season was kind of a ambiguous ending. Like, was it a good season or a bad season? Was it a good thing that they climbed out of their hole, or was it a bad thing that they created a hole? Like, should they have made it to the Super Bowl? Should they have given the ball to Deebo a couple more times in the fourth quarter, or should they just be happy they made it that far? I mean, I think the fan base is probably split on that as well. And now you're going into the next season of trading Jimmy Garoppolo. What's his next team going to be? How's he going to do? How's Trey going to do? Who's going to have the better season next year? Because if Jimmy has the better season on his next team and that team actually wins more than the Niners, then the Niners are back on the hot seat. Like, what were you thinking? All that kind of stuff is it's a very, very dramatic team. I'm surprised the national media doesn't like talk about the Niners more because it's great. It's got everything. I don't know.
I mean, they talk about the Cowboys. They talk about a bunch of different, and the Cowboys are a joke.
Cowboys are boring. They're mediocre. The Niners are like wild swings. They're great. They're terrible. No, they're great. Actually, they just gave up another 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. I don't know what to make of them anymore. I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. So, I mean, you've obviously, how many years have you been in journalism? Because you've obviously been in here a while. You've probably had quite a few seasons. I think you were covering them during the Jim Harbaugh era as well. So that must have been exciting. So definitely tops a lot of those seasons as well. Like the 2013
the Harbaugh years are really exciting too. But if you remember, like 2011, they were dominant. They won a bunch of games. They started off 1-1 and went on a run. And then 2012, they went like win 2, lose 1, win 2, lose. They were always really good in 2012. They went to the Super Bowl. 2013, that was when Aldon Smith crashed his truck. Things started getting weird, but I mean, they still went to the playoffs. Yeah, and then after then, like they were just awful for a while. That was kind of boring too. So this was the most, are they good or are they not season I've ever covered, and I liked it. It was every week we're like, are they contenders or I love that game was so much fun all season.